PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, hockey fans. Welcome to another edition of Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. And I'm your host, Ian Rakelli. My Twitter handle is right down below at IanRakelli18 if you want to follow me. And if you want to follow the show at Vegas Hockey Hub. If you want to go to the website, PRConnectionsRadio.com, check out all the shows we have on there. We have about a dozen shows on PRConnectionsRadio.com. A lot of fantastic content, amazing creators on PR Connections Radio, so I highly recommend checking out PRConnectionsRadio.com. And on tonight's edition of Vegas Hockey Hub, it is time to do our 2023-2024 NHL season predictions. And the way we are going to do this is as followed. We are going to start with the Pacific Division, and we will break down between 1 to 8 who is going to finish in the standings. We will do the same for the Central, 1 to 8, Metro, 1 to 8, and the Atlantic, 1 to 8. Then afterwards, I will give you who the 8 teams are going to be in the East and the 8 teams in the West that are going to make the playoffs. And then lastly, as we are starting to wrap up the show, we are also going to do a Eastern Conference final prediction, a Western Conference final prediction, and finally, a Stanley Cup final prediction. So this is going to be an amazing show for everyone watching all around the world here on Vegas Hockey Hub. So we are going to start out with the Pacific Division. And this is definitely the division we have to talk about. After all, your Vegas Golden Knights are in the Pacific Division. They are your reigning, defending Pacific Division champions out here in Vegas. So to start this out, we are going to go from the bottom and work our way up. So dead last, we have in the Pacific Division, we have the Anaheim Ducks. This is going to be a very, I'm not going to say shocking decision, but what I will point out is when it comes to the Anaheim Ducks, they are a team that has a lot of young talent. You have Trevor Zegras, you have Mason McTavish, Troy Terry. There is some good talent in Anaheim. Leo Carlson and Jamie Drysdale, those are two that also come to mind. The problem the Anaheim Ducks are going to have is, simply put, they don't have enough talent to fill in terms of forwards. They don't have enough talent on defense to get the job done. I mean, the only way, and this is like best case scenario for the Anaheim Ducks, their top 6 all puts up over 70 points. Best case scenario, the Anaheim Ducks, John Gibson goes back to elite John Gibson we saw in the playoffs all those years ago. Best case scenario for Anaheim is that all 5 of those young guys I mentioned about 60 seconds ago all exceed expectations at the pond. Because that's really the only way the Anaheim Ducks are not going to finish last in the Pacific. There is a good chance they're going to compete for a lottery spot in the draft. They're going to be at one of the bottom 5 picks once again out there in Anaheim. So to start out our prediction show for the Pacific Division, at dead last, we have the Anaheim Ducks. Moving over to number 7, the team I have right above Anaheim, we have the Calgary Flames that are going to be at this spot. Now, the Calgary Flames is a very difficult decision because you could look at it from a positive or you could look at it from a negative. So let's do the positive first and do the best case scenario before we get to the negative in Calgary. The Calgary Flames, the positive is they have some good veterans on that roster. Make no mistake about it, when it comes to Calgary, you have Jonathan Huberdeau. You do have some good guys on the top 6. You do have a guy in Rasmus Andersson who is a reliable and consistent defenseman. And you have Jacob Markstrom, who has been a solid goaltender ever since they acquired him from the Vancouver Canucks. The problem that Calgary has is very similar to Anaheim in a lot of ways, is that the Calgary Flames lack depth. The Calgary Flames, unfortunately, are in a position now where they do not have a lot of reserves. Their bench is not great. Their defense is lacking in a lot of areas. And more importantly, when it comes to Calgary, you have a new management that's coming in now. There is no longer the assistant GM and the GM and all the people that were there originally. By the way, rest in peace to him, by the way. He passed away very recently. I want to say my condolences to him. But when it comes to the Calgary Flames, because you have a new changing of the guard, a new change in ownership, that is going to affect how Calgary is going to play and how the roster is going to be assembled at the trade deadline. I would not be surprised if a few assets got flipped from Calgary at the trade deadline, especially if they have a losing record. So, best case scenario for Calgary is their superstar has like 110 points, is top 5 at MVP voting, and Jacob Markstrom repeats what he did a few years ago and carries Calgary into a playoff spot. But the realistic scenario is that Calgary is probably going to be around the 30-game mark. They're going to be at 30, 35 games at the winning percentage for Calgary. They're going to sell assets at the trade deadline, and it's not going to be pretty for the Calgary Flames. So at number 7 in the Pacific, right above Anaheim, we have the Calgary Flames. Now, moving over to number 6, and this is a team that has some potential, but I do not see how this team is going to go far. I especially don't understand the whole coaching situation. Now, that is the Vancouver Canucks at number 6. Now, everyone in hockey understands that they have a young core, that you had JT Miller, who they extended and gave a massive contract extension to the offseason prior. You have Brock Besser. You have Elias Peterson. There is a lot of good talent in Vancouver. I will give credit there. Quinn Hughes, one of the best young defensemen in hockey. Thatcher Demko, when he is on it, oh man, he is on it. The problem Vancouver's going to have is that they have to have every single part go right to make the playoffs. Thatcher Demko is going to have to repeat what he did during the 2020 bubble. Quinn Hughes is going to have to elevate his game. The second and third defensive pairing is going to have to try to perform like the first pairing is going to do. Vancouver is just in a weird mesh right now where you have a new coach. Travis Green's no longer there. Bruce Boudreau is not there anymore. So for Vancouver, it's really kind of a weird limbo right now where you're not going to be great, but you're not going to be bad either. You're just going to kind of be in that meh category. So I expect them to be a few games under 500. And for Vancouver, being 6th, I understand some people are going to agree, some people are going to disagree, but Vancouver for now will be at number 6. Number 5, and a team that has a lot of potential, so much upside based off of what they've done this past offseason. I'm going with our heated division rival, a team that has definitely brought a lot of heartache to the Vegas Golden Knights in the past, and a team that was entering a rebuild but has done quite well, and that is the San Jose Sharks. Now, when it comes to San Jose, I understand that a lot of people look at what they don't have anymore as a reason for why they're going to suck. You no longer have Timo Meier. He is now in New Jersey. He got a nice contract to go over there. Joe Thornton, Jumbo Joe, he's not there. Patrick Marleau is not there. But what you still have in San Jose is a good mix, a good balance of young talent that's in the minors, that's in prospect in San Jose, and veterans who have been there forever. You have a good mix of guys like Captain Logan Couture and with guys like Tomas Hertl. But you also have some young guys as well. They drafted Will Smith in the first round. He was a high first-round pick for them. You also have some good up-and-coming guys who we actually saw in the rookie face-off when San Jose took on Vegas. And if you watch the San Jose versus Vegas preseason game, you got to see up close and personal what the young talent looks like for San Jose. So for number 5, being the San Jose Sharks, it makes a lot of sense when you factor in the balance between young and old, a balance between experience and energy and energetic youth. So San Jose at number 5 in the Pacific. Number 4, a team that the Vegas Golden Knights faced in their season opener, and that is the Seattle Kraken, as you see right there. Release the Kraken. And I will mention with Seattle, when it comes to this organization, them making the playoffs last year was a good step forward. It was a step in the right direction. What I'm going to take away from it is the Seattle Kraken are going to continue to build on that. You still have a good top 6. Your top 2 defensemen are good. You still have Adam Larson. You have Vince Dunn. You also have some guys like Jamie Alexiak as well and Will Borgen. So for the Seattle Kraken, they did really well in their expansion draft. They went into the NHL draft, drafted the Calder Trophy winner from last year, Matty Beniers. So for the Seattle Kraken, I have them as the 4th best team in the Pacific. And I'm going to mention that mark right next to them in just a second, because you'll see that little dash right next to them. And then 3rd place, and a team that I have making the playoffs as one of the 3 seeds that is guaranteed to make the playoffs, we have the Los Angeles Kings out there in LA. Look, the Crypto.com Arena or the Staples Center, as forever will be known, they are going to be supporting a very good team in LA. I'm very happy with the decisions they made this past offseason. And more importantly, getting Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to help them out a lot. You also have Philip Deneau. You have Anze Kopitar, the veteran who has been there forever. You also have a situation where the LA Kings have brought in a good amount of talent to surround the young guys. Yes, you have Brant Clark. You do have Quentin Byfield. There is some good up-and-coming talent. But the last 2 off seasons, they had Victor Arvidsson, Kevin Fiala. There is some good supporting cast that the LA Kings have brought in. The only problem and the only bad case scenario the LA Kings have is the goaltending. Giannis Korpisalo, Cam Talbot, not really names that are going to shock you on paper. They're going to have to overstep or overperform in LA to be a Stanley Cup contender. But based off the roster they have assembled right now, the LA Kings, 3rd best team in the Pacific. And then at number 2 in the Pacific Division, we have 2 left. And at number 2, you have your reigning, defending Stanley Cup champions, and that is the Vegas Golden Knights. So when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, let me explain to you why I have them at number 2 in the Pacific. So for starters, when you win a Stanley Cup, you're going to have some fatigue that's going to kick in. Especially the first 2 or 3 months of the year, it's going to take a slow process to eventually shake off the rust and all that momentum that you had back in June. I will also point out with the Vegas Golden Knights, losing Riley Smith, yes, that is unfortunate. Them bringing back 21 and 23 starters is impressive. The goaltending is going to have to stay healthy. And we've already seen, not even a small sample size, how much injuries have impacted the Vegas Golden Knights. And it's not even a month into the regular season. So I will say for the Vegas Golden Knights, injuries and the fact that they just won a Stanley Cup, and it's going to take time to shake off, the lack of training camp, a lack of going in and doing all the practices and everything. They had a very short off season thanks to winning the Stanley Cup. So because of them having those 2 reasons, I say the Vegas Golden Knights will finish 2nd in the Pacific, not 1st. However, stay to the end of the video, by the way, because I'm going to explain to you why I have the Vegas Golden Knights where I have them at the end. So I will say when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, they are at number 2. For anybody who has done the math real quick, at number 1 in the Pacific, I have the Edmonton Oilers led by the best hockey player in the world, Connor McDavid, as the number 1 seed in the Pacific Division. Now, not just the fact that they have 2 of the top 5 talent in Leon Draisaitl and in Connor McDavid, But more importantly, when it comes to Edmonton, they made some upgrades this offseason, took off some dead weight, moved some assets around. It really seems like for the first time in forever, they've actually built a top six around Connor McDavid. Bringing in Connor Brown is solid. Then bringing back Evander Kane is good. You have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. You have Zach Hyman and Leon Draisaitl. So that top six in Edmonton is finally being shaped up correctly. Darnell Nurse, the face of the defense out there in Edmonton, alongside Evan Bouchard, and Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell as your 1-2 punch in net for Edmonton. So do not be surprised if the Edmonton Oilers win, I would say 50 or more games this year, considering the Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl special, plus the reinforced top six, and the defense has gotten better. So let's recap the Pacific very quickly here on Vegas Hockey Hub. So at number 1, I have the Edmonton Oilers coming in first place. In second, and still making the playoffs, your Vegas Golden Knights. After that, the last team to clinch a spot in the playoffs will be the Los Angeles Kings. At number 4 will be the Seattle Kraken. Release the Kraken indeed. At number 5, the San Jose Sharks. They have a nice blend of young and old guys, experience and youth. Number 6, the team that is in limbo, the Vancouver Canucks. A team that really just doesn't know what they're trying to do right now. Same with the Calgary Flames. So much has to go right for them to do well this year. And then at number 8, I have the unfortunate Anaheim Mighty Ducks doing what they are trying to point out when it comes to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. They're trying to build for the future, but that future is not this year. And I do want to talk about the Vegas Golden Knights for just a quick second because, yes, it was reported that Brett Howden has been suspended for his hit on Brandon Tanev during the season opener. I definitely wanted to point that out. And also William Carrier being out for a minimum of 1 week. So I will say that's the Pacific Division. Let's get to the Central Division here on Vegas Hockey Hub. And we're going to start this out by going to the bottom once again. So at number 8, we have the St. Louis Blues. My, oh my, how the mighty have fallen in St. Louis. A couple of years ago, they were hoisting a Stanley Cup and singing Gloria all around downtown St. Louis. But unfortunately, the St. Louis Blues have sold off so much of their assets. A lot of that talent is not there anymore. And they're kind of in a rebuilding stage right now in St. Louis. So I will say for the St. Louis Blues, they are at number 8. It's just unfortunate what's happening with them. At number 7, we have the Arizona Coyotes, a team that's playing at a college hockey arena out there in Glendale. And I will say that when it comes to Arizona Coyotes, Logan Cooley is definitely a good prospect you can watch for in the future. I highly recommend watching Arizona, Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley. They brought over Matt Dumba to help the defense. But Arizona just does not have enough talent, especially on the bottom 6 and on the bottom pairing, to make them better. So at number 7, the Arizona Coyotes, they're just in a weird limbo right now. Number 6, a team that you had to watch before the Golden Knights on Banner Night. And I'm talking about the team that had the number 1 pick this year, who won the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, and that's the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, I will mention with Chicago, them beefing up that team, them getting veterans in Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno, Corey Perry, Ryan Donato. There is some good veteran talent the Blackhawks brought. The goaltending is suspect. A lot of people already know that. But with the Chicago Blackhawks, them winning the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, do not be surprised if they go from 8 to 6 in the Central. I definitely see them surpassing Arizona and St. Louis in the Central. At number 5, and a team that I have barely missing the playoffs, that is the Nashville Predators. I mean, this is an organization that has really taken a step back almost every single year. Nashville's in a weird limbo where they're not bad enough to tank. They're not bad enough to rebuild, but they're not good enough to start winning games. It really feels the last 4 or 5 years, Nashville has either been a wild card team in a first-round exit, or they barely miss the playoffs and they start selling off assets at the offseason. Also keep in mind that they did bring in Ryan O'Reilly, who is a nice touch, but they lost another Ryan in Ryan Johansson, who went to Colorado. So I will say when it comes to the Nashville Predators, they're in a weird limbo. I have them just missing the playoffs in the Central. Now, if this would have been a week or two ago, I wouldn't have had them here this high. But them bringing back Connor Hellebuck, them bringing back Mark Scheifele, extending them to long-term deals, puts the Winnipeg Jets at number 4. I will say the Winnipeg Jets have a lot of potential. I like what they have, and they should be a team that will compete for a playoff spot. At number 3, we have the Minnesota Wild. This will be the last season that Marc-Andre Fleury will be a Minnesota Wild. Philippe Gustafsson, a solid goaltender, somebody who's going to help Minnesota. And you have Kirill Kaprizov. He is definitely going to prove himself in Minnesota. At number 2, I have the Dallas Stars. I mean, this is a team that made the Western Conference Final last year. They're an organization who has definitely done a lot of good in the NHL. They bring over Matt Duchene. They have Evgeny Dadonov. Those 2 acquisitions in Dallas. So it will be great to see what they can do. But the number 1 team in the Central, it's got to be the Colorado Avalanche, a team that won the Stanley Cup not even 2 years ago. Then bringing over Ryan Johansson, getting Ross Colton, getting Miles Wood, Jonathan Drouin. I mean, there's so much talent that's been brought into Colorado. There is a no-brainer here. The Colorado Avalanche are going to be the number 1 seed in the Central Division. So, to recap here on Vegas Hockey Hub going to the Central, we have the Colorado Avalanche at 1, the Dallas Stars at 2, Minnesota Wild at 3, the Winnipeg Jets at 4, the Nashville Predators at 5, Chicago Blackhawks at 6, and the Arizona Coyotes at 7, followed by the St. Louis Blues at 8. And since we're here in Vegas, I know a lot of people don't care about the Eastern Conference, but we do need to talk about them. So we're going to give kind of a quick rundown on the Eastern Conference. We will start with the Metro Division. And the worst team in the Metro is going to be the Philadelphia Flyers. Shout out to my friend Dennis Holmes, but I know he's a Philadelphia Flyers fan. He liked Bobby Clark. He liked Eric Lindros. But look, let's just state the facts, Dennis. Your Philadelphia Flyers have sold off so much of their assets. Ivan Provorov's not there anymore. You have taken so much of that team. Claude Giroux's not there. Kevin Hayes not there. There's a lot of fall off in Philadelphia. So I expect them to be last in the Metro. At number 7, we have in Columbus, those Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, I will mention that the Mike Babcock situation is bad, but Columbus will actually benefit from Philadelphia selling off assets. So by proxy and by default, Columbus will move up 1 spot in the Metro. At number 6, a team that really has kind of stayed in the same limbo forever, and that is the Washington Capitals. Look, let's face it, they are wanting to see Alex Ovechkin break the Wayne Gretzky goal record. I mean, that's really the only highlight Washington has this year. The season's not going to be pretty. The season's not going to be great for them. So I say for the Washington Capitals, there's a lot we could talk about there, but unfortunately, Alex Ovechkin is probably going to be the only note that we're going to talk about. At number 5, a team that is definitely going to fall off this year, and that is the New York Rangers. I mean, this is a team that lost Tarasenko, lost Patrick Kane. They went all in last year to win a Stanley Cup, and the New York Rangers did not get it done. Gerard Gallant got fired. Peter Lafayette is in, and there's a lot of question marks in New York. So I will say New York Rangers at number 5. Very unfortunate. At number 4, the team that I have that's going to be a barely missing the playoffs, and that is the New York Islanders. Look, Lou Lamoriello, he is good at what he does, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of question marks in New York. Can Ilya Sorokin carry this team on his back once again? Can they make a wild card spot like they did last year? So much we could talk about there. At number 3, we have the New Jersey Devils. I mean, this is an organization that brought back Lindy Ruff. They brought in Timo Meier from San Jose. They traded Miles Wood. He is now in Colorado. There's so much that is question marks about the New Jersey Devils. But more importantly, the question's going to be, can they replicate and can they duplicate what they did last year? And that was have over 100-point season in New Jersey. I say they'll make the playoffs. That will be a guarantee. But their seeding, I have them behind these two teams. At number 2, the team that won the offseason, and that is the Pittsburgh Penguins. They added Erik Karlsson, added Riley Smith. You keep Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Brian Rust. So much of the talent is brought back from the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is going to be a team to watch out for. And then at number 1 in the Metro, and this is such obvious, is the Carolina Hurricanes. So for Carolina, they are a team that definitely is on the rise. They're a team that is not just here now, but they are here to stay. So let's go over the Metro one more time here on Vegas Hockey Hub. Carolina Hurricanes at 1, Pittsburgh Penguins at 2, New Jersey Devils at 3, New York Islanders at 4, the New York Rangers at 5, Washington Capitals at 6, Columbus Blue Jackets at 7, and the Philadelphia Flyers at 8. And since we have about 5 minutes left here on the show, let's go and do the Atlantic Division for everybody watching around the world. At number 8, and the worst team in the Atlantic will be the Montreal Canadiens. Look, Habs fans are not going to be happy with me, but that's fine. You took a win from us in the Western Conference Finals back in 2021. I consider that a fair trade. Look, you have Nick Suzuki, you have Cole Caulfield, but you literally have nothing else. There's not much going on in Montreal. At number 7, we have the Florida Panthers. This is a team I expect to fall off a cliff performance-wise. They barely made the playoffs last year and made it to the finals as a 8 seed. I don't expect much from Florida this year. At number 6, the Ottawa Senators. This is a team that has new ownership now. They brought in some good players like Claude Giroux, for example. But when it comes to the Ottawa Senators, I look at them as kind of just a meh team. There really isn't much going on there. In terms of positives, they have some young talent, but it's not going to get there yet. At number 5, and a team that we have finally living up to their potential, and that is the Detroit Red Wings. This is an organization that I really expect to take that next step. Stevie Y as the leader of this team. He has made some good moves, did some good trades. I expect Detroit to be up there. For the first time since 2011, I expect the Buffalo Sabres to not just be a 4 seed in the Atlantic, but to be a playoff contender. The Buffalo Sabres, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch, there's so much positives in Buffalo. So at number 4, the Buffalo Sabres. At number 3, they lost their goaltender, but they have so much of that talent still remaining, and they have a content goaltender as a backup, and Giannis Johansson. The Tampa Bay Lightning will be good enough to make the playoffs. I don't know if they'll get back to the Stanley Cup final, but they're good enough to get to the playoffs. At number 2, the team that won the President's Trophy last year, and that is the Boston Bruins. This team's going to lose a bunch of more games they did the year before, but they are still a top 2 team in the Atlantic. And then the number 1 team, the team that everyone should have saw coming, and that is the Toronto Maple Leafs, the best team in the Atlantic. So let's go for the Atlantic Division one more time. Toronto Maple Leafs 1, Boston Bruins 2, Tampa Bay Lightning 3, Buffalo Sabres 4, Detroit Red Wings 5, Ottawa Senators 6, Florida Panthers 7, and the Montreal Canadiens at 8. And lastly, as we are starting to wrap up the show, let me give you the playoff predictions here on Vegas Hockey Hub. For the Eastern Conference Finals, I have the Carolina Hurricanes and the Toronto Maple Leafs. For the first time since the 90s, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to contend for a championship. will be in the Eastern Conference Finals. And in the Western Conference Finals, your Vegas Golden Knights are going to take on the Dallas Stars. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, I have your Vegas Golden Knights defeating the Carolina Hurricanes and winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. So, once again, as we are doing our NHL season predictions here on Vegas Hockey Hub, I'm your host, Ian Rickelli. And until next time, continue watching hockey, go support junior hockey, and go Knights!